Papa, please stop, it's hurting me. Papa, I'm scared. That was the voice of 10-year-old Oluchi, crying in the small mud ward room she called her bedroom. But the man she was pleading with was not a stranger. He was her father, Madu, the man who once carried her on his shoulders and told her stories under the moonlight. In the quiet corners of Amuzu village, Oluchi was known as the girl with the bright eyes and the shy smile. Everyone thought her family was perfect, a hardworking father who sewed beautiful Igbo attires, and a mother, Ngozi, who ran the most popular provision shop in the market. But behind the closed door of her room, Oluchi was living a nightmare. It began one humid evening. Oluchi was arranging her school books when Madu entered and quietly locked the door. "Oluchi, my dear," he said softly, "I want to show you something, but you must never tell anyone. It's our secret." She didn't understand what he meant. She trusted him, after all, this was her papa. But that night, he did something no father should ever do. Oluchi felt sharp pain. Her heart pounded. Her voice trembled. "Papa, please. I don't like this, it's hurting me." But Madu didn't stop. His eyes were cold, his hands heavy. When it was over, he leaned in and whispered a threat that would cage her voice for weeks. "If you tell anyone, you will die." "Do you want to die, Oluchi?" Shaking, she whispered, "No, Papa." From that night, Oluchi's world changed. She stopped smiling freely. She still played in the dusty compound with other children, but her laughter was forced. Inside, she carried a heavy secret that burned her little heart. Whenever Mom and Ngozi left for the market, Madu would find a reason to call Oluchi inside. The same pain. The same fear. The same silence. One night, clutching her old rag doll, she whispered to herself, "Maybe Mama will listen to me tomorrow." But in her heart, she feared her mother would not believe her. She was right to be afraid. The truth was only beginning to surface, and it would shake the whole village. The next morning, Oluchi sat quietly at the small wooden table, nibbling at a piece of yam her mother had fried. Ngozi was already dressed in her bright blue Ankara wrapper, her tie perfectly knotted, ready for another long day in the market. As she packed a basket with provisions to sell, Oluchi's small voice broke the silence. "Mama, can I tell you something?" Ngozi didn't look up. "Speak quickly, I'm late." Oluchi's hands trembled as she held onto her plate. "It's about Papa. He does something to me when you're not here." Ngozi frowned, still counting her money. "Oluchi, not now. You know how hard I work to feed you. You always say strange things when I'm busy." "Mama, please," Oluchi's voice cracked, her eyes filling with tears. "It hurts me. He says I will die if I tell you." Ngozi dropped her bundle of notes on the table and gave her daughter a sharp look. "Stop talking nonsense. Your father works hard to take care of us. You should respect him. Do your homework." Oluchi's words died in her throat. She wanted to scream, to beg her mother to listen, but she had learned that trying would only make Mama angry. Ngozi picked up her basket and hurried out of the house, leaving Oluchi alone with her father. Madu stepped into the room moments later, a faint smirk on his face. "What did you tell her?" he asked coldly. Oluchi froze. "Nothing, Papa." "Good," he said, patting her head in a way that made her skin crawl. "Remember, if you talk, you know what will happen." The days rolled on, each one a repeat of fear, silence, and pain. And then, one Thursday afternoon, something happened that made Oluchi think her secret would finally be heard. But dear listeners, what happened next will make your heart race. Before I tell you, if you are hearing my voice right now, I want you to pause for a moment, and click the subscribe button. Stories like this need to be told so we can protect the innocent. Your support means I can share more, and you'll never miss the moment justice finally comes. Now, let's go back to Oluchi, because the next scene will change everything. That Thursday, A heavy rain swept across Amuzu village. Ngozi came home earlier than usual because the market had closed early. She entered the house, her wrapper down from the downpour. As she stepped inside, she heard a muffled sound from Oluchi's room, a sound that froze her feet in place. Ngozi stood still at the doorway, her ears straining to catch the muffled sound again. It was faint, almost like a whimper. Her heart skipped. She stepped closer. The sound grew clearer, a soft, trembling voice, and then another deeper voice speaking in a low tone. She pressed her ear against the door. "Papa, please. I'm scared." Ngozi's hands began to shake. She grabbed the handle, but something inside her told her to stay calm. Her mind was racing. Could this be what Oluchi had tried to tell her all those times? The thought made her chest tighten. Quietly, she pushed the door open just enough to peek inside. What she saw froze her blood. Madu was sitting on the edge of Oluchi's bed, his hand on her shoulder, his face too close to hers. Oluchi's eyes were wet, her small frame trembling. Ngozi's breath caught in her throat. She stepped back quickly, afraid that if Madu saw her, he would know she had been watching. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared they might hear it. She closed the door silently and walked away from the room, her mind a storm of questions. That night, she could not sleep. The rain had stopped, but the sound of it seemed to echo inside her head. Could it be true? Has my husband been doing this to our child? She wanted to confront Madu immediately, but fear held her back. She had seen his temper before. And if Oluchi's words were true, then confronting him without proof could make things worse for her daughter. The next morning, Ngozi decided to test him. She told Madu she had to travel to the next village to buy more goods for the shop, but secretly, she hid near the house, watching through the small gap between the fence posts. Hours passed. The afternoon sun was high. Then she saw Madu call Oluchi inside. The girl walked slowly, her head down. The door closed. Ngozi's breathing grew shallow. Every instinct in her body told her to rush in, but something told her, wait. Watch. This time, you must see everything. Ngozi crouched lower behind the fence, her heart hammering. Through the narrow gap, she saw Madu pull the curtains in Oluchi's room. The movement was slow, almost careful, the way someone acts when they don't want to be seen. Her palms were damp with sweat. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to keep watching. Inside, Oluchi stood stiffly by the bed, her little hands gripping the edge of the mattress. Madu spoke to her in a low voice, but Ngozi couldn't hear the words. Only the trembling in her daughter's shoulders told the story. Ngozi bit her lip until it bled. She wanted to scream. She wanted to run inside and tear her husband away from their child. But her legs refused to move. Fear pinned her in place. If I run in now, will he hurt Oluchi before I can stop him? If I wait, will I see enough to make him face the full punishment he deserves? She pressed her face closer to the gap. Then it happened. Madu stepped toward Oluchi, placing his hand on her cheek, his face lowering far too close to hers. Oluchi flinched. Her small body tried to lean away, but he held her by the arm. Ngozi's stomach turned. Her breath became quick and shallow. She had no more doubt, her husband was a monster. And yet, she still didn't move. She was frozen, locked between rage and shock. Suddenly, a voice behind her made her jump. Auntie Ngozi, what are you doing here? It was Chika, a neighbor's teenage daughter, holding a basket of cassava. Her eyes were wide with curiosity. Ngozi spun around, pressing a finger to her lips. Shoo! Not a word to anyone, you hear me? Go home. Chika hesitated, then slowly walked away, glancing back once. Ngozi turned again to the gap in the fence. But now the curtains were fully drawn, she couldn't see anything. Her hands trembled as she stood. She knew she couldn't wait much longer. One wrong moment, and she might lose the chance to protect her daughter forever. That night, Ngozi made a decision. Tomorrow, she would return home at the exact same hour, but this time, she would not just watch. She would act. What she didn't know was that tomorrow would bring more than she had prepared for. The next day, Ngozi pretended everything was normal. She cooked breakfast, spoke to Madu with a calm face, and even reminded Oluchi to wash her hands before eating. But inside, her heart was beating faster than a drum at a village wedding. When the afternoon came, she left the house with her market basket, telling Madu she would be gone until evening. Instead, she circled around the back of the compound and hid in the shade of a mango tree, close enough to see the house. Minutes felt like hours. Then she saw it, Madu calling Oluchi into the house again. The girl moved slowly, her eyes fixed on the ground. Ngozi's fist clenched. This time, she wasn't going to watch from afar. She ran silently to the side of the house, her bare feet barely making a sound on the dry earth. She stopped outside Oluchi's window and peered through a tiny tear in the curtain. Her stomach twisted. Madu was sitting on the bed, pulling Oluchi close to him. She looked stiff, her small hands pushing weakly against his chest. That was it. Ngozi couldn't hold herself back anymore. She rushed to the door, pushed it open, and stepped inside. "What are you doing?" she shouted, her voice shaking with rage. Madu froze. For a moment, the only sound was Oluchi's sobbing. Then Madu's expression hardened. "You don't understand," he said coldly. "I'm teaching her." "Shut your mouth." Ngozi's voice was sharp, her body trembling. She pulled Oluchi to her side, wrapping an arm protectively around her. But before she could say another word, Madu stood up. His tall frame loomed over them, his eyes dark with something dangerous. "You think you can come in here and talk to me like that?" he growled. Ngozi's breath caught. This was the moment she had feared, the moment when Madu's temper could explode. And just as he took a step forward, there was a loud knock on the front door. All three of them froze. The knock came again, louder this time. Madu's eyes shifted toward the door, his jaw tightening. Ngozi gripped Oluchi tighter, unsure whether to answer it or use the moment to escape. "Stay here," Madu muttered, stepping toward the front of the house. But as soon as he disappeared into the hallway, Ngozi bent down to Oluchi. "Run to the back," she whispered urgently. "Don't stop until you reach Auntie Ifeoma's house." Oluchi hesitated, her eyes wide. "Mama. Go." Ngozi hissed, giving her a gentle push toward the back door. The knocking continued, now mixed with a voice. "Is anybody home?" "It's me, Chika." Ngozi froze. The neighbor girl. The same one who had caught her spying yesterday. By the time Madu opened the front door, Chika was standing there with her basket of cassava again, looking curious. "Oh, good afternoon, Uncle Madu," she said, smiling politely. "Mama sent me to give you some." "What do you want?" Madu's voice was curt, his eyes darting briefly toward the back of the house. "I just came to drop this," Chika began, but she stopped suddenly. She had caught sight of Ngozi in the hallway, her wrapper slightly loosened, her face pale. The air between them was heavy with unspoken words. "Thank you, now go," Madu said quickly, snatching the basket from her hands and shutting the door with a firm thud. He turned to see Ngozi still standing there. "Where is the girl?" he demanded. Ngozi's heart pounded. "She's in her room." But Madu's eyes narrowed. He walked past her quickly, heading for the back door. Madu's heavy footsteps echoed through the narrow corridor as he reached the back door. He yanked it open. The yard behind the house was empty, at least at first glance. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over the dusty ground, the mango tree swaying gently in the wind. Then he saw her. Oluchi was halfway across the compound, running toward the path that led to Auntie Ifeoma's house. Her small feet kicked up dust as she sprinted. Oluchi. Madu's voice was like a thunderclap. Oluchi didn't look back. Her heart was pounding so loudly she could barely hear anything else. She had never run this fast in her life. Madu took off after her, his long legs closing the distance quickly. Ngozi appeared at the back door just in time to see them, her daughter running for her life, her husband chasing her like a predator after prey. "Run, Oluchi," she screamed. Villagers nearby began to turn their heads. Two young boys who were playing with a football stopped, their eyes widening at the sight. Oluchi darted around the water drum, trying to make herself harder to catch, but Madu was faster. Just as he reached out a hand to grab her, a loud voice rang out from ahead. "Oluchi! This way!" It was Auntie Ifeoma, standing at the gate to her compound, waving frantically. She had heard Ngozi scream. Oluchi's legs burned, her breath sharp, but she pushed herself harder. Madu slowed slightly when he saw Ifeoma. His face changed, not from guilt, but from calculation. He knew too many eyes were now watching. Still, his voice carried a warning. "This is family matter," he growled to the onlookers. "Mind your own business." But the way Oluchi clung to Ifeoma's wrapper told everyone in sight, this was no ordinary family issue. Oluchi clung to Auntie Ifeoma's wrapper, her chest heaving as tears streamed down her face. Ifeoma's arms wrapped around the trembling child like a shield. "What's going on here?" Ifeoma's voice was loud enough to carry across the small crowd forming nearby. "This is my daughter," Madu said sharply, stepping closer. "She's misbehaving. I came to bring her home." But his tone did little to hide the tension in his eyes. Ngozi finally reached them, her wrapper slightly undone from running. She stood beside Ifeoma, her breathing heavy. "She's not going anywhere with you," she said, her voice trembling but firm. A few villagers exchanged glances. Whispers started to ripple through the crowd. "Did you hear her scream? She ran like something was chasing her. Something's not right in that house." Madu's jaw tightened. "This is family matter. You all have no right to interfere." But Ifeoma didn't move. "When a child runs into my compound crying like this, it stops being just family matter," she said firmly. Oluchi gripped Ifeoma even tighter, her small body shaking. One of the elders, Paokri, stepped forward, leaning on his walking stick. His wrinkled face was stern. "Madu, you know the law in this village. If something is wrong with a child, the council must hear it." The air went still. Even the children who had been playing in the distance stopped and stared. "I said nothing is wrong." Madu backed, his voice rising. But the way he avoided looking at Oluchi spoke louder than any words. Ifeoma's eyes met Ngozi's. In that silent exchange, both women knew the next step would be dangerous. But this was no longer a secret they could bury. Paokari's voice cut through the murmurs. "This matter will be taken to the village council immediately," he declared. Madu stepped forward, his hands balled into fists. "You will not drag my name in the dirt. This is my family." But the crowd was no longer silent out of respect, they were silent out of judgment. Every eye was on him, their faces stern. Two other elders, Mama Uche and Elder Nana, joined Paokri. "If you are innocent, Madu, you will have nothing to fear in the council hall," Mama Uche said. "But if you are guilty," she let the words hang in the air like an axe waiting to fall. Ngozi kept her arm around Oluchi, feeling the girl's heart still racing against her side. Ifeoma stood like a wall between them and Madu. By late afternoon, the entire group had moved to the village square. The council sat in a half-circle under the shade of the old Iroko tree. Oluchi was brought forward gently. Her small voice shook as she told them what had happened, the secret she had been forced to keep for weeks. Each word was like a knife cutting through the last threads of Madu's defense. The murmurs grew into anger. Men shook their heads. Women wiped tears from their eyes. When Madhu tried to speak, Pa Okari raised a hand. We have heard enough. What you have done is an abomination, not only to your daughter but to this entire community. The verdict was swift. Madhu was seized by two strong young men from the council's guard and taken away to be handed over to the police in the nearby town. Oluchi clung to her mother, tears falling, but this time they were not tears of fear, they were tears of release. Ngozi knelt down, cupping her daughter's face. I'm sorry I didn't listen earlier, she whispered, her own eyes wet. It will never happen again. You are safe now. The villagers surrounded them, not out of curiosity, but in solidarity. Women patted Oluchi's back. Men nodded at Ngozi with quiet respect. And under the shade of the Iroko tree, the whole community made a silent promise that no child in Amuzu village would ever have to carry such a secret alone again. Dear listeners, this story may be fiction, but the pain it speaks of is real in many homes. If a child comes to you with fear in their eyes, listen. Don't wait until it's too late. In our rush for money, work, and daily struggles, we must never be too busy to hear the voices of the little ones. Share this story so others may remember, protecting a child is protecting the future. And if you haven't subscribed yet, join this community. Together we can keep telling the stories that matter.